Hey everybody, my name is Nick. I am Shellie Anderson's husband. You might think it might be a little difficult to be married to a relationship and intimacy expert, and sometimes it is. This is my opportunity to agree or disagree with my wife, or to just help you with your relationship, your marriage, or intimacy. I hope you enjoy. Hey everybody, I hope you're doing great. I'm doing wonderful. I'm thankful for summertime, but I'm ready for the kids to go back to school. Anyway, this is my opportunity to share with you my feelings about my wife, Shellie's most recent podcast. Her podcast is entitled, I'm Not Interested in Sex. And so first off, I just want to say, that's pretty embarrassing that my wife isn't interested in sex or hasn't been in the past. As a man, I think oftentimes we feel so much pride and we are sensitive, whether we admit it or not, about whether or not we're good lovers. And so for her to say that there's been times in our marriage when she is not interested in sex, that hurts a little bit, I have to say. Oh my gosh. How am I supposed to respond to that? I'll just say this. We have decided, as you probably know if you listen to this podcast, that we're going to be real and we're going to be open and honest with our relationship, hopefully to help you with your relationship. Not very many people are willing to talk about these things the way that Shellie does. And not very many people have husbands that are willing to go along with this and to support his wife in putting out our dirty laundry. So I just want to share this with you. I want to go through the things that she had talked about. And I look forward to this because it is so important that we're able to communicate and talk with each other about our intimacy. Now, I just want to start off with just saying the one thing that I didn't understand when I first got married was that intimacy is so much broader than just the physical intimacy. There are 24 different types of intimacies, and most of those are not related to physical intimacy in any way. They're more emotional. They're intellectual. They have to do with going through life together and learning from each other and allowing life to bring us closer together rather than pushing us farther apart. So as I've learned those things over the years, I'll just say our intimacy is pretty dang good in the last 15 years of our 21-year marriage. And I really thought it was good personally at the beginning all the way through. But I've learned that there's a lot more to this. And as a husband, I have dedicated my life to helping my wife to understand herself and to understand me. And I've decided to learn more about myself and always learn together how we can be closer. And by being closer, we can be more happy. So I just want to start with a couple of things that she talked about. She talked about intimacy and sex being a shared experience. For us men, here's just the straight truth. We are geared from the beginning to think more physically. When we get married, we look forward to having a physical relationship with our wife, especially those of us that have, saved ourselves and believe that sex should be had within marriage. And for those of us that look forward to that, I think most men do, we think, oh, green light, once we're married, it's on. And I thought that too. And I kind of expected my wife to feel the same way because I didn't understand that there's a lot more to it, especially for women. And here's the secret. There's actually a lot more to it for men too. We just don't know that as soon as women do. So let me just talk about that as a shared experience. Physically, you can have the most incredible sex. The woman can have an orgasm. The men obviously usually has an orgasm. It's a lot more apparent, obviously, but for a man. And even if a woman is having an orgasm, and even if the woman is enjoying that part of sex in that moment, she may still not be interested in it. I have learned this over the years as Shellie has talked to many women. A lot of women don't have orgasms. A lot of women do, but if she is not enjoying the entire experience and having a shared experience, she may not want to come back for more. So men who are listening to this, please take some time to learn about all the parts of the intimacy experience that your wife wants to share with you. And I promise you, there's going to be some emotional aspect of that is important for you to understand. Now, having said that about a woman, as I've gotten older, I'm almost 50 years old. I've gone through the ups and downs with my wife. We've gone through, having children. We have 5 of them, and life is never the same. It's never always easy, and it's never always bad. It has its ups and downs. One of the things that I've learned is that my happiness is totally dependent on how connected I feel to my wife. If I don't feel connected to my wife, doesn't matter how good the sex is, doesn't matter what she allows in the bedroom, it doesn't matter how often. If I don't feel connected to her, I've learned that I am not happy. And so what's interesting is I feel like as you go through life, men and women can become more and more alike. Women can learn to enjoy the physical part, men can enjoy the emotional part a lot more. And if you're both working on it constantly together and you have a goal of having thoughts that are positive about intimacy and you're constantly talking together about enjoying it more, you will. And you're going to discover things, especially men, you're going to discover things as you become more curious about your wife and what she likes. Even though you think you know what she likes, if you're really having an honest conversation, there's going to be things that she would love to improve. And it goes both ways. Okay. It does. But from a man's perspective, I think a lot of times we are not in tune with that part of our wife as much as we could be because it's a long-term, lifelong process. And we can be more in touch with our own as well if we're being honest about it. The second thing she talked about was that sex is a special experience, or it should be. It should be special. It shouldn't be something that's just run of the mill. Hey, we're going to have a quickie. You know, we've talked about quickies. We've done podcasts on quickies. Shelley's talked about it a lot. Sometimes quickies are good and they have their place. Don't get me wrong. But for men, a lot of times, especially when I was younger, I'm like, hey, let's just have a quickie. And I'm thinking, oh, this is great because I had my needs met. That is such a small part of the way that sex should be. It should be a special shared experience. And then the last thing is to ask yourself the question about what am I gaining or losing from this? Be interested in that. Be interested in how it's affecting you. Really take time to think about it. And I'll just make a little plug here. If you want to really learn about yourself and you really want to understand your relationship, not only with yourself, your spouse, but also others, become a member of Shelley's Make It Meaningful membership. And you can find that at shellie.andersoncoaching.com. It's a monthly membership, and she goes through a process where you have to do some work and you have an opportunity to really go through your life with a different topic every month. But I promise you, it will help you. Okay. So having that plugged, also get on the website, shellie.andersoncoaching.com, and see our other courses. All right. Back to my response. She said that you should ask 3 questions. Now, the first question is, what qualities do I not understand about my bedroom? About the bedroom. Oh, no. Sorry. Skip that. Cut that. Okay. The first question is, what are some qualities about my spouse that I don't understand yet? That's a great question. This is for men. I'll tell you, there are things that we make assumptions all the time. We think about our wives. We think we know them. Sometimes we're happy with them. Sometimes we're not. Yeah, just admit it. It's okay. It's okay to not be happy with the way things are going with your wife sometimes because she thinks that about you too. Goes both ways. But to be curious about somebody, to really think about them in a positive light, who they are, who they can become, but also things that you may not know about them. Ask them questions and have curiosity about them. That is very, very sexy and intimate for both of you. Okay. That's a great way to start improving your intimacy with your wife. The second one is what's a benefit that I'm getting out of intimacy? Okay. For a man to think about this, like I thought about this when she brought this up in the podcast. I'm like, what benefit do I get? Okay, so I can think about the physical benefit, the sexual drive that I have, like everybody, all men or most men do. I get that benefit. But is that benefit so shallow that it's almost like just scratching an itch? Or am I really feeling closer to my wife through our sexual experience? I personally enjoy the long-term, like more in-depth quality of lovemaking as I'm getting older, a lot more than I just like the wham bam, thank you, ma'am, I'm getting off and I'm done. All right, satisfied. That is such a smaller satisfaction than the whole thing. Now, there are times when I'm not interested either because I might be tired and I know that to have that quality lovemaking, it takes work. It's not something that just happened. Of course, there's times when it can be quick. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that's wrong, but I enjoy the quality of it so much more now, but that does take longer. And it takes me making sure that I'm in the right place with my wife so that when that intimacy continues into the physical realm, it is so much better, but it does take work. Okay. So there are times when I'm just tired or I'm not in the mood. And even if I feel like I'm turned on and I want to, have a quickie, I have to be very, very sensitive as to whether or not she's in that place or not. And if she's not, I just let it go. And it's something that you learn. You have to learn control. You have to learn control in marriage no matter what. So it's not a new thing. The third thing that she talked about, the third question was, if husband and wife share sex, what is it that I long that I've been missing? So as a man, you might be thinking about some sexual fantasies that you might have. You might be thinking about things that you wish your wife would do or say or act. I mean, there's a lot of fantasies we have. We live in a pretty pornographic world. So most men don't deny it because you've had this thought and I hope you've controlled it. But we have these thoughts of women almost being more like the having a sexual desire like a man. And so we may be missing some of that, right? You might think of your wife as a prude or whatever. If you have those thoughts, work really hard to change them because it's a lie to think that women should be a certain way, right? Your wife is a certain way. Your wife is a very unique person and has unique desires, and she might not even know what her desires are. So what are you missing? Well, if you're thinking that way or thinking more like kind of the natural man does, you're probably missing out on the emotional connection with your wife. And if you can find that and find that for you, your wife's probably going to find more interest in you physically too, right? It goes both ways, but stop thinking about yourself. Think about the other person. And that goes for wives too. Think about what you've been missing. Think about the things that you can accomplish and choices that you can make to help your husband as well. It goes both ways. So I want to keep this short, but this is a really, really hard thing to do in marriage because there are times when things just don't feel like they're sexy or romantic or they feel like they're boring. I promise you that if you will take the steps to really find out more about what your spouse wants and be open to those things. It doesn't mean that if you ask your husband what his fantasies are, it doesn't mean you have to fulfill them, but having that conversation is really important. Having a shared special experience is important. And men, if you want your wife to be an incredible love maker, like you are, of course, right? If you want her to match you, well, guess what? You need to match her on the emotional side and learn about the 24 intimacies. Shellie also talked about having a free 5-day intimacy spark, and that is going to be in the link below in this description. So check that out. It's an opt-in. It's a funnel. I'll just be straight up about it. So you have to put your name and your email in there. And if you'll do that, you'll get a response. It's a 5-day challenge. And it's really what we're just calling it the 24 intimacies spark. And it'll teach you about all the different intimacies. It'll guide you through conversations that you can have with your spouse so that you can improve that intimacy. I am so grateful for my wife, and I am very grateful to be married to an intimacy and relationship expert. It is difficult at times, but there's nothing that I am experiencing that you can't. Right? Watch these podcasts, continue to watch the podcast and listen to the podcast, whichever one you prefer. But also you can find incredible courses on Shellie's website, shellie.andersoncoaching.com. There's a lot of courses. They're actually very affordable. And this is a way that you can continue to hone your skills so that you will know how to improve not only your marriage, but also your happiness in your life. God bless you. Take care.